Hello, hello, hello! Welcome back to another video. Oh god, my nose is itchy. I know it's been a really long time since I made a video with my camera actually in my fursuit, but I thought that being in a fursuit today would be sort of fitting into the video title. So, today's video I'm going to talk about things that furries and fursuit makers hate in general and why you shouldn't do them. Okay, so the first thing on the list is people saying furry costume or furry head instead of just a fursuit. Like, not only is it annoying, but it's just incorrect. Like, dude, it's a fursuit. Come on, it's a fursuit. It's not furry head or furry costume. It gets annoying to us furs. Oh, my fucking nose. The next thing is bad duct tape dummies. Now, I've never really done full suit commissions, so I wouldn't really know this pain of actually getting a duct tape dummy in the mail. But from what I've heard about other makers is how, and I mean, I have this problem before with some of my other duct tape dummies. Like, I've actually had to completely redo some just because the arms were weird, or like I had the legs too high up or something like that. It's just a nightmare. But usually when you're making a fursuit, you want to have the arms in a T-pose so that you make sure, so that you can make sure that when you're sewing the sleeves and you put your arms up, that it doesn't just go up to your elbow, for example. So when people make duct tape dummies when their arms are just like straight down, it often makes it so that the sleeves just go up to your elbows when you lift your arms up, which isn't fun. So when people send in bad duct tape dummies or make bad duct tape dummies, or you make a mistake on a duct tape dummy and you sew an entire fursuit and then you realize something doesn't fit right because of that duct tape dummy mistake, you can see how it would get pretty annoying. The next piece is another fursuit maker thing, which is sewing wrong pieces together. I can tell you right now that sewing heads can be an absolute pain because there's so many just little tiny pieces, and some pieces just look exactly the same, and it can end up turning out pretty badly if you realize you sewed the wrong piece together. That's why whenever I sew things like spots or stripes, I always mark them stripe 1, stripe 2, and I mark them where they are on the pattern piece where they go on. And on fursuit heads, if the patterns are symmetrical, you only need to tape 1/2, which is what I did with Forest. And to make sure that when I flip it, I don't cut out 2 pieces of one side, whenever I flip the pattern, I mark the flipped pieces with an X. So that way I know, oh, this cheek piece is X on it and this piece doesn't. That means that this cheek piece goes on this side and this one goes on this side. It's a very useful thing that I wish I learned a lot sooner. The next part is the wrong fur direction. Another fursuit maker thing. This is something that's actually happened to me way more than once, and it always happens to me on the lower jaw for some reason. Fur direction is really, really, really critical when you're making a fursuit. Fur naturally always points to the poles, so fur goes up on the ears, goes out to the cheeks, goes down past the hands, and so on. And I can't tell you how many times I've just accidentally cut the nose bridge for like going towards the nose instead of away from it. And this is something I do all the time, but I always cut the lower jaw with the fur going this way instead of this way. And that's just a very common mistake I make, even though I've been making suits for 3 years. So the next thing is bad materials. When you're making a fursuit, you should always do research on your materials and whatnot so that you can make sure that you have the best quality materials to make your fursuit look awesome. But occasionally you'll get just bad materials, such as fleece that stretches too much, or fur with an itchy backing, or fur that just doesn't shave well at all, or you might even have mesh that just falls apart when you paint it. So you should always do research about which materials you use to make sure that you always get some good ones. The next one is getting parts of your fursuit pulled on. I've been to a convention before, and I can understand why like little kids don't understand how expensive and how hard to make fursuits are. But this was when I had 4S 2.0, so she wasn't as quality as this one. It's like all the seams were glued, the ears were just slightly glued on, that part of the ear wasn't actually sewn to the head. And this little girl came over and I was like sitting around with like 7 other fursuiters, and she just starts like pulling on my ear and pulling on my ear, and she was like pulling people's tails, and it was just not fun. And I was really worried that the ear was gonna come off, because my suits then are not even close to as quality as mine are now, and I'm not even super high quality. So that is a thing that fursuit makers really hate. Another thing that I really don't like is people asking you to do impossible requests on fursuits and then getting mad at you when you say, sorry, that's impossible, I can't do that. Like, I know that Nefertiti had someone do this to them, where they like asked for a fursuit that like had multiple arms that like sprouted from it or something like that, and they got really mad when she said they couldn't do it. And I don't do commissions, so I haven't really had people ask me for impossible requests, but I have had just 1,000 people every day not reading my description and say, do you do commissions? No, I don't. Read the description. Another thing that people, oh my god, I have fur in my nose all the time, damn it, is people asking for free fursuits. Now this was something that's been around for a really long time, and it still sucks to this day. Asking for a free fursuit is just really disrespectful to the maker you're asking it to, because fursuits take like hundreds of hours to make, and materials can cost hundreds of dollars if you don't have them on hand. And not to mention the cost of shipping is usually a lot. So when people ask like $2,000 for a full fursuit or more, it's not just because they're being expensive, it's just because it takes so much time, the shipping's a lot, and labor takes so much time that it just ends up costing a lot of money. People also really hate minors ordering things behind their parents' backs. I haven't had this happen to me before, but I know a few makers. I know that Bardic Bestiary has said something about this, where they had made just this awesome, cool monster dog fursuit, and they sold it for like $2,500. And they ended up having to send it back and refunding the person, because it was like a kid who had stolen their parents' money, and had spent it on that fursuit, and she had already shipped it out to them and eventually had to like send it back and refund, which really isn't a fun thing to have to do, and unfortunately it happens more than you think. So my suggestion would be, if you want to avoid this issue and you're asking for proof, don't just have them take a picture of the ID on the table, but have them holding the ID next to their face so you can actually see the person holding it. Another thing that we all hate is just random hate. Occasionally I'll just get like a few comments on my YouTube here and there. They're just like, oh, stupid furry, you guys are pedophiles and stuff like that. I'm just like, yeah, no, most of us don't do that. And unfortunately, all the bad people in the fandom have really given us a lot of a bad reputation, which really isn't what most of the fandom is at this point. And another thing people hate is, again, this sort of goes with the hate thing, is people making assumptions about you just based on what you like. And, you know, there's like all the weird porn stuff in the fandom and stuff like that. But in reality, like, very few of the fandom actually does that gross stuff. And unfortunately, the porn side of it is what's really only the most visible to people who are unaware what our fandom actually is. And last but not least, we've got art thieves. I've had this happen to me a few times where like people have been stealing my videos or stealing my speed paints, or sometimes I posted things on DeviantArt, and thankfully they've gotten a lot better about preventing art theft and stuff like that. But I've had people who have used my art and used it as their profile picture and have like blocked me for it, and it's just not fun. Don't steal art. And that's all for today's video. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found this video informative / useful / entertaining. So yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching.